Welcome back to SoulShift, where we explore the profound transformations that happen when we align our deepest truth. I'm Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, here with Christine Morgenstern, Shin, and today we're diving into something that touches every aspect of our well-being, our most intimate relationships. I'm thrilled to welcome Monica Tanner, a relationship coach who's helping thousands of couples move from stuck and disconnected to deeply seen and passionately in love. Monica is the host of the Secrets of Happily Ever After podcast and author of Bad Marriage Advice. What excites me most about our conversation today is exploring how the health of our relationships directly impacts the relationship we have with ourselves, our bodies, and our overall vitality, especially as we navigate midlife.
Welcome to SoulShift, a sacred space where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come together in perfect harmony.
Each week, we explore the gentle art of transformation. SoulShift holds space for your beautiful, messy, perfectly imperfect human experience.
Meaningful change doesn't have to break you open. It can unfold softly, like morning light.
Together, we'll uncover tools that honor your truth, share conversations that touch your soul, and celebrate the exquisite complexity of what it means to be human.
Your presence here is a gift. Let's shift with grace,
with love,
together.
Hey, Monica, so happy to have you here.
Oh my goodness, so happy to be with you both.
So I love how you say the real connection doesn't come from cliches. It comes from skills. Can you share what led you to this realization and how it shaped your mission?
Absolutely. I mean, it came from experience, full stop. My husband and I got married at a very young age, and everybody was very quick to give us all of the cliche marriage advice that you hear. Don't ever go to bed angry, happy wife, happy life, don't sweat the small stuff, like all the things that you hear on a regular basis. And I'm not at all saying that this was never good marriage advice, but modern day marriage is so different than what our parents and grandparents and generations before us experienced. And so perhaps it is well-intentioned, well-meaning, outdated advice.
Yeah. So many women that I work with are in midlife and they're realizing that they've been believing the wrong things about themselves too. Not only what you just shared about the things we were told regarding how to have a happy marriage. Are there parallels that you see now between those conditioned beliefs and how that impacts how we feel about our bodies and our self-worth?
Absolutely. Part of it is, as humans, we crave human connection. And so when something gets in the way of that, we start to feel badly in all the other areas of our lives. And so I feel like this connecting with another human, connecting with ourselves, connecting with something higher than ourselves, being able to access that connection is really what creates a lot of health, which is why, they say people in secure relationships live a lot longer. They're happier, they're more productive, they make more money, because there really is a huge parallel to being connected to yourself, being connected to others, feeling connected to a higher power. It's all connected.
And isn't it true that our relationship with ourselves is reflected in our relationship to everything else?
100%. One of the most important concepts that I teach and work with couples to create is this idea of differentiation, which is being able to hold on to yourself in the face of being connected to others, right? So it's being able to stay connected to yourself while being in close proximity to others who may not have the same opinion. Creating a strong, thriving, healthy marriage is about being able to differentiate. And the reason that is because all humans, we want to belong to others. We want to belong to the pack, to the group. But we also want to belong to ourselves. And so there's this constant tug and pull. Like, I want to be accepted into the group, but I also want to maintain my individuality. And so that's always at play. And so the stronger we can become in our own selves, the stronger our relationship with ourselves becomes, the easier it is to tolerate anything around us, right? And so having a healthy sense of self and also the ability to love others and connect with others is what creates healthy, happy, thriving relationships.
Makes great sense.
Yeah, that really hits home because, a lot of women I work with where I'm teaching them how to actually come home to themselves. And that is a combination of soul work and nervous system healing. And so I was curious, in midlife, a lot of women often experience what I call a soul awakening. So they question literally everything. And I'm curious if you find this in your clients as well that are in midlife, and how does that relate to their relationships? Do they start questioning their relationships, or did I pick the right partner? Things of that nature. Can you speak into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a woman is so interesting because we are by nature loving, caring, giving, nurturing, right? I mean, that's how we are just by nature. And so what happens a lot of the times is, we're young, we're in love, we get married, we start a family, and we start giving, giving, giving. We start giving to our spouses, we start giving to our children, we start giving to our career, and we just kind of start giving away little pieces of ourselves. And our identity becomes all wrapped up in our roles, especially as mothers. And so I see a lot of clients. When I say clients, I'm meaning couples where they've raised their kids. They haven't paid a lot of attention to the relationship itself. They've kind of built their life around their identity as parents. And now their children have gone and launched, basically. They've done their job and they've done a great job. And now the woman is left with, wait, who am I? What's left of me? What do I do now that my life's work is kind of out and, doesn't need me as much? I mean, we'll always be mothers. But when I see couples the most is kind of this identity crisis where the woman is like, wait, what do I do now? Who am I now? What do I love to do? What do I do with all this time? Who am I really in the world? What's my contribution here? And, the woman is usually grappling with all of this. And the husband is like, what do you want from me? And they haven't nurtured the relationship. And so they don't know how to support themselves in this kind of new transition. And that's when they come to see me, because it's like, we kind of did our job. We raised the kids and we don't know if there's enough here to stay the course. Like, do we stay together and kind of try to rebuild what we once had? Or do we move on and try to do something else? And that's the crossroads where I see a lot of couples.
And that's what you mean when you talk about moving from roommate syndrome to passionate connection.
Yes, because a lot of times, yes, raising a family, starting a business, doing all of the things that younger couples are all embroiled in, you start to create routines and dynamics. And then when the routine shifts and it's not built around your kids and their routines and all of that, then you kind of go, well, I mean, who are we? Like, what do we do? What do we enjoy doing together?
Do you help the couples and guide them through reinventing themselves? And is this done from, working with each of them individually, or do you work with them together, or a little bit of both, so they can kind of feel, because it sounds like there's an identity crisis going on here in midlife.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is an identity crisis happening for both partners. A lot of times they'll deal with it differently. And so understanding what each other is going through is a big, deep part of that. And kind of reinventing themselves is part of the process. My preference is to see couples together because we can and do deep trauma work in the presence of the partner. And so a lot of times what happens is because we're so busy starting our career, our business, raising a family, we haven't dealt with a lot of the childhood trauma that we still carry. And so a lot of the work that I do is what we call inner child work. And so we work with these dynamics, with these adaptations that most people go through the bulk of their life not ever recognizing or understanding. And so a lot of that reinvention that you're talking about is really going back in, reparenting that inner child part of yourself and creating some rules and guidelines for it. Like, listen, what you've done for me my whole life has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for helping me survive my childhood and adapt and get the attention that I needed and the love that I needed and all of the things. But now it's not so adaptive when I'm dealing with my spouse. Like, it's more about reparenting that child and being like, thank you so much for helping me. But now I need you to stand behind me while me and my wise adult brain and all of the experience and the things that I've learned with all this experience, now I can deal with my partner.
Yeah, that really rings true for me. So many women that I coach struggle with body shame that comes from the unhealed wounds of childhood. And it really affects their ability to be vulnerable in their relationships from an intimacy point of view. So how does healing happen when couples address both emotional and physical intimacy together? But what happens when one of the partners has trouble sharing that part of her trauma?
Well, when it comes to trauma, there are therapists and counselors and coaches that are specifically trained as trauma therapists. And so a lot of times I don't have really deep trauma work training. And so a lot of times if we get to a place where I can see that there's been a lot of big T trauma, I'll refer out. And there's lots of different modalities to work with the trauma. There's EMDR. There's now a lot of psychedelics that are kind of coming on the scene. There's lots of ways to work with that trauma. And I'm not specifically trained in a lot of those things. However, most people have experienced some type of trauma. And so just being able to tune into, to kind of reconnect with that inner child part of you, to be able to talk to them, reassure them, show them love, and then give them guidance. It's such important work that I think everybody needs to do.
Yeah, and it's creating that safe space, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They always say you have to learn to love yourself before you can love others, right? You can only love other people to the extent that you can love yourself. And so again, you have to be able to reconnect, reaffirm, love, show sympathy, support, and empathy for this little child inside of you. Maybe your parents didn't give you that. Maybe your family of origin didn't have the capacity, the skill, or the ability to give that to you. The good news is you can give it to yourself now, still, at any age.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also willingness to let go of that belief system, that that's the way it is. We talked about reframing your identity. That's part of it, right? When we were raised to think that being a wife means XYZ, being a husband means XYZ.
Yeah. I mean, there's two sides to that coin. There's the expectations that we have of our partner or the expectations we have of ourselves. So I know for me, when I first got married, I had very high expectations of myself as a wife, stemming from my own childhood trauma. I thought that I needed to be perfect in every aspect, right? And so it wasn't until, I was a young mom with 3 small children and a business that I was running with my husband and a household to manage. And I wasn't doing anything perfectly. Like everything was on fire all the time. And I was running around going, when it was just me, I could control all the circumstances. I was very type A, everything was very organized. And I mean, I was living moment to moment at this point. And I thought, this obviously is some sort of a coping mechanism that has lived its lifespan. Like it's not working for me now. And so I've got to figure out how to just relax into the messiness and the imperfection that is family life. So, I think we all at some point and in some way kind of run up against that. Like my coping mechanism, my adaptation isn't working. What is going to get me through this challenge?
That's about navigating the tension between individual growth and partnership.
Absolutely.
Right? When one partner is doing the work and maybe the other is not. The other's not quite there yet.
The reality is we are drawn to people who are, they say you marry your unfinished business. But what that means is we're drawn to people that are familiar, that they have familiar attributes to our family of origin. We marry our mothers and fathers, right? And we're trying to get from them the same validation or love or attention that we didn't get from our parents. Now, the good news is most of the time, the people that we are attracted to, they're familiar to us, but they also have resources that our family of origin didn't have. And so they're perfectly designed to stick us in those wounds, right? So one of the chapters in my book is actually the right person won't hurt you. And that's such a myth, because if you believe, man, I'm like constantly getting hurt in this relationship. Well, if you see hurt as a bad thing, this idea that the person I love isn't supposed to hurt me, you're going to be very disillusioned about your marriage, because the reality is the person that you were attracted to is perfectly, specifically designed to like poke you in all the places that actually hurt, to give you the opportunity to heal those raw spots, those wounds. And so if we look at it as an opportunity to grow and to heal those rough spots, those tender spots within us, then we think this is perfect. It's just as it should be. And so that's the danger of believing this myth that the person that loves us the most is never going to hurt us, because of course they are, right? Their wounds and raw spots are going to rub up against our wounds and raw spots. And it gives us both the opportunity to heal, but sometimes that requires some support and some coaching and some learning about, relational skills.
It's really interesting about how you're saying that when they bring up those wounds that we've had, whether it's at a child or that present themselves in midlife, how do you back it up and have each of the individuals feel safe in their body and in their heart and their mind, so they have that emotional bandwidth and mental bandwidth to be able to have the conversations they need to have in order to move forward? Do you have a specific route of how you go about that?
Such a great question. And yes, what I work with individuals inside of a coupleship to do is so if you think about it, when we get triggered, a lot of times when those wounds get triggered, whether it's an abandonment issue or a withdrawal or, whatever it is that's triggering us, most of the time, if you were like an outsider looking in, which is usually what a coach is, you see somebody get triggered. And when you're watching them, you realize that they're not actually responding to what's in front of them or the argument or what's happening, between the couples. They're responding to something from their past. And so once you start to unravel that a little bit, you can help people go from this triggered amygdala, fight or flight, freeze or fawn state, getting back into their wise adult. So the idea is, if you can help people recognize, I'm triggered right now. I am not actually responding to what just happened between us. I'm responding to something that happened in my past. That's not your fault and doesn't have anything to do with you, right? What just happened triggered me. And so it's about taking a beat, taking a breath, sometimes taking a 20-minute timeout or pause. If you can get your wise adult back online, then you can access those relational skills that are going to help you connect, bond, create more intimacy, learn about each other, have empathy and compassion and love for the person that you're with, right? But both of you have to be able to go from that very triggered state back into that wise adults.
It takes time. I mean, I found that, working in very small titrations with folks, so they can shift very slowly so they don't get triggered, or at least if they do get triggered, they don't bathe in their problem. And then they understand, it sounds like you're sharing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like once they have that awareness that, okay, this is a trigger. This is not logical. This is not today, could be something from the past. Then they can maybe gently set it aside. It sounds like you're taking a physiological break, right? So I call it a prayerful pause or a mindful moment, right? So they can get back in their body, become embodied, and then recenter, so then they can reconnect.
Yeah. And we're basically saying the same thing. It's the way that I teach people how to do that is really what's happening is that adaptation, that younger version of themselves is running the show now, right? And so taking a moment to be able to calm that part of yourself down, and taking a pause, taking a moment and saying, you know what, young Monica, thank you so much. I love you so much. Right now, I need you to get behind me so I can deal with the problem that's in front of me. So yes, it's getting back into your body, right? It's getting back into your body.
Get that embodiment.
It's being able to put your little one right here in your heart.
Yeah, and it's so true for so many women have disconnected from their bodies. That's a conversation for a different time, but that is for so many people the why behind their behaviors, whether it's reflected in their relationships with their partners, relationships with food, relationships with their body. It's all about that disconnect.
Yeah. It's so true because, overeating or over drinking, or those are all adaptations as well. It's like, it's this triggering this idea that there's not enough for me. So I have to eat or I have to drink or whatever those adaptations are, whatever that is. And it's about being able to feel that and then calm it down. It's like, nope, there's an abundance. There's always enough. I don't need to eat all the food or drink all the alcohol. Like, you're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's living in that mindset of abundance rather than scarcity.
And as a wise adult, you know this. But when that little girl gets activated inside of you, it's very hard to see the forest from the trees.
No question. Especially when those behaviors started out not as a problem, but as a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what many people also have to honor, that their behaviors are not so much a problem that need to be fixed, but something that needs to be understood.
Yeah. I always say, honor the incredible wisdom of the adaptive child, but also remember that what was an adaptation, adaptive then, maladaptive now. And all of this comes from Relational Life Therapy, which is the modality that I'm trained in, right? This is Terry Real. So amazing. So, if you want to get like a really good, grounding framework for life, it is Relational Life Therapy is so good. That's what I use when I work with couples.
So have you had couples that don't quote unquote hear each other? They might either A, talk over each other, or B, say, I didn't say that. What are you talking about? That type of thing. Has that occurred in the past?
I mean, that's almost always the problem. Like when I ask, what could I do to be perfectly helpful? They'll say, can you help us communicate better? And it's always, those are the symptoms, right? They're using their adaptation, their fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fix, all of those F words.
Yeah. Well, think about what you were saying about the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Our inner ear, when we're not overwhelmed, it actually works very well, and the nerve fibers signals the brain, right, to hear the sound. But what's really fascinating is that if you are overwhelmed or stressed or have anxiety or just feel stuck, your inner ear, the muscles tighten in the inner ear, and you do not hear what the other person is saying. You can literally not hear, or it'll be jumbled, or you'll mishear. And then think about if we layer on top of that these wounds that you're talking about, or the stories, or however they're living their life through, a lot of the conversation and the communication can get so misconstrued that the people typically think that who are they talking to? Are they actually talking to me? And so I've seen this, and I think we're all human. We've all probably experienced this to ourselves, that I literally did not say that. Well, it's good sometimes for the client maybe to understand that, hey, it's not you. You're not a bad person. Your physiology is trying to keep you safe. And you actually didn't hear what I said, that type of thing.
Yeah, you can definitely get lost in who's right and who's wrong. But the relational answer to that is, who cares? There's two subjective realities. There's your reality and there's mine reality. So, you may not have said what I heard, but I still heard it and felt it. And so your job is to understand my experience, whether you agree with it or not. So a lot of times the point of communication isn't to correct all the facts and to make sure that everybody's on the same page. It's really for you to understand my subjective experience and for me to understand yours.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. And Monica, taking this a step further, for women entrepreneurs who are passionate about their work, how can they grow their business without burning out while still taking care of themselves and nurturing their relationships?
That's a beautiful question. And the answer really is because I have a heart for entrepreneurs. I mean, my husband and I grew a business, then I stayed home for a couple of years, and then I grew a business and sold it. And now obviously I have a business. So I understand that entrepreneurial mindset. And a lot of times we, especially as women, are visionaries, we're creatives. We see a vision of something. And so what's most important is to be able to share that vision with your loved ones to create buy-in. Instead of like burning the candle both ends, feeling like you've got to work on your business without taking away from the family. Like what a good partnership is the ability to, my husband isn't passionate about the things I'm passionate about, but he's passionate about me. And so communicating and over communicating what I'm doing is paramount. Learning how to communicate with each other the vision so that your family or your partner doesn't feel like they're just being dragged behind a truck blindfolded, right? Because they don't see the vision, they don't know what you're doing. So an example of this is like when I first started and I had no idea if my business was going to go or not. I have no idea what I was doing, but I was in the middle of a launch and I remember stopping and thinking, you know what? I can't do this like on my own time. Like this is all consuming. And so I've got to tell my husband that I need some support. And so I said, you know what? For the next week, I'm running this challenge. It's going to require a lot of my time. I'm not going to be able to, do dinner and laundry and a lot of the things that I normally just take care of that most of the family takes for granted. But I said, I'm going to need your support. And I will never forget that Sunday when we had our family meeting and my husband sat us all down and the kids. And, we do that every Sunday. But he was like, listen, kids, Mom is doing a launch this week. She's running a challenge. She's going to spend a lot of time in the office. So you're going to have to be on your own for dinner. So if you have to just eat cereal, eat cereal. It's just a week. And, plan for her not to be doing any laundry. So, you got to make sure that your jerseys are clean or, whatever. Like we're all helping. Right. And it was kind of like a put your hands in the middle, Team Tanner kind of thing. And what you're teaching through being able to communicate and partner like this is you're teaching that there's room in the family for everyone to be able to chase their dreams, for everyone to be able to grow and flourish and become the best version of themselves. So we support Dad when Dad's coaching soccer and it's a busy season, we all rally and we support Dad. When Mom's doing a launch and figuring something out, we rally and we support Mom. When, one of the kids is traveling for sports and, crazy busy with all of that, we rally and we support them. And that's how you create a family community connection and love and support. And that's what we're all after.
Yeah. And the takeaway from that is that we don't have to sacrifice our own growth and healing for the sake of our relationship.
No.
Really beautiful.
It requires a lot of vulnerability. It requires the ability to ask for help. I can't do this on my own. I need your support. This is how support would look like for me this week.
To feel comfortable first in your body and feel safe enough that you're not scared to talk to your husband in that way, and then he on the other side, the same thing, that he's open enough, even like you said, if his passion isn't your passion, but his passion is you, right? For him to be open enough to do the same. So it's beautiful relationship and with the kids,
Yeah. But we can also appreciate at the same time how difficult that can be for a woman who had as part of her identity needing to take care of everybody, the nurturer. So how does she step up and release that and reveal that part of herself? It goes back to self-worth and learning that you are worthy and that you can ask for what you need.
And that you must ask for what you need.
Yeah, really is hard to do. Oh, Monica, this has been such a wonderfully rich conversation. Really, really wonderful. So if you could leave our listeners with one key insight about how healthy relationships support someone's overall well-being journey and how important it is to have that big soul shift, what would that be?
If I could leave them with one message, it would be that learning relational skills, learning to take care of yourself, learning how to reparent that inner child, learning how to ask for help, it's like learning any other skill. It's like learning a sport or an instrument or any other talent. You're going to be bad at it before you're good at it. And it's about stepping into that discomfort, and it's about trial and error. It's about getting up and brushing yourself off when you fall down. It's about giving yourself love when you fall short. And so that's the beauty of life, is that most of us have another day, another week, another month to try again. And I would just say, embrace it, embrace change, embrace imperfection, embrace vulnerability, especially embrace curiosity. We didn't talk a lot about that, but getting curious about yourself and getting curious about your partner, asking more questions than making statements is a great way to show love and create intimacy.
Yeah, love that. And Monica, please share with our audience where they can find you.
Thank you. Yes, you can get more of my free resources and learn how to work with me at my website, monicatanner.com. And if you're interested in my new book, Bad Marriage Advice, you can go to badmarriageadvice.com to get all of the information about that.
Great. And your podcast, Secrets of Happily Ever After?
Yes, that's a great free resource. I have experts on all of the time. We talk a lot about all of the relational skills that you need to really make a thriving, happy, healthy marriage.
I really enjoyed your reels. What is your IG? Because that was a lot of quick, beautiful pearls that people can receive too.
Thank you. Yes. So you can go to @Moni, MONI, Talks Marriage, Moni Talks Marriage on Instagram.
You know, this conversation so beautifully illustrates how our relationships are not separate from our healing journey. You're integral to it. Thank you, Monica, for your wisdom and for the important work you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If SoulShift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.